is back. 8-division champ Manny Pacquiao makes his triumphant return. In his way stands WBC champion Mario Barrios. Plus Fondora versus Zoo 2 in an epic rematch.
What a gutsy battle!
And Pitbull runs it back against Angel Fierro.
Can you say fight of the year?
It's a stacked night of hard-hitting title fights. Pacquiao versus Barrios, Saturday, July 19th, live on PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video.
We're here ahead of Barrios and Manny Pacquiao in the main event. Tim Zoo, Fondora 2, Bloodbath 2, maybe. For the rematch for them. We've got Fierro and Pitbull, part 2 as well. I mean, some wonderful fights. Let's first break into with the main event. What do you think about Manny Pacquiao, Mario Barrios? Pacquiao, they say he looks great in the gym. Everybody's saying, I heard it umpteen million times. I just met with Manny Pacquiao's team. They're saying the same thing. You tell me, you're a guy who knows, what are the dangers that Manny Pacquiao might be facing this weekend?
I mean, listen, the age is one thing, right? He's 46 years old. He's attempting to be the oldest welterweight champion, literally beating his own record. He already is the oldest welterweight champion at 40. Now he's 46. What worries me more than anything, aside from the age, is the time off. You know, he's been 4 years out of the ring. Timing matters a lot more, even especially as an aging fighter. Think of a guy like Bernard Hopkins, who fought really late into his 40s as well, was very effective. Man, it was all about rhythm and timing and all the sweet nuances and the way he was able to maneuver around a ring. You don't really keep that without practicing it or being in the ring. So Manny being out of the ring so long, that gives me a little concern early on. But honestly, I'm going to be able to tell in the first round if Manny is, or how much of Manny's left. If he has that first explosive first step, if he can land that straight left hand down the middle, if his footwork looks crisp and not all over himself, I think we got a real fight in our hands.
And when we talk about these things, and we talk about a guy looking good in the beginning of the fight, naturally, guys look better in the beginning of the fight. But I've talked to you on numerous occasions, and the thing that I get from the gist of talking to a lot of fighters is that a guy can get old in a moment of in a couple of rounds. Talk to us about that. Just the wheels can kind of fall off of a guy. It doesn't happen in the gym. It happens where?
There's a really good saying, and we spoke about this off camera. Guys don't get old in the gym; they get old in the ring. So, yeah, that's going to be an issue, you know, with this fight, because, like you said earlier, Manny's been looking really good in the gym and in sparring and on his runs. All the team, everyone's saying we're seeing all the videos. We're seeing him and Freddie. We're seeing those fast hands, the footwork, everything, the morning runs. But what's going to happen if this fight goes late? We get into the second half of the fight. Those legs, those 46-year-old legs, those legs that have run countless miles getting ready for all these fights. He's got 70 fights under his belt, 70 professional fights. So that's really going to be telling as the rounds go on, if this does go late, how Manny's legs are going to hold up.
You know, Chris, a couple of years ago, the night of Tank versus Pitbull, I got a chance to hang out with Mayweather at his house in L.A. It was just me, him, Michael Nunn. We were just in there marinating and hanging out, right? And we're talking, eating fruit at the table. And Floyd said, you know, the thing that people don't realize about coming back is that it's not about you throwing punches and jumping around. It's about what you can take. Because he said it's almost shocking how your punch resistance goes down after so long that you almost turn back into a regular guy. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Brains don't like taking punches. Older brains really don't like taking punches. So the older you get, the resistance certainly goes down. You know, we talk about chins, right? It's really brain health. You know, the guy, he had a good chin, he lost his chin, or his chin went, you know, as he got older. But it's really your brain health. You know, as you age, your brain's aging as well. And the ability to take damage, to recover from getting hurt, from, you know, getting concussions, getting TBIs over the years. That's another thing. So let's get a long career of getting hit in your head. That damage builds up over time. Exactly. It accumulates over time. So, yeah, the brain is not going to be as durable later in life. And that's a really cool story about Mayweather, because he was one of those guys who fought pretty late, too, late in age. And he kept his chin together, but he had really good defense. Manny, who does have good defense as well, but not as good as Floyd. He still took a lot more damage, in a lot more wars than Floyd was in. And I think even we look at the Manny Pacquiao who fought Keith Thurman. Look, he looked great that night. He got the win over a very, very good fighter. And he was 40 years old. But he took a lot of punches in that fight because he didn't have the same footwork. He didn't have the same evasive ability that he had when he was younger. And I can't imagine he's going to get more evasive than he was 6 years ago. So he's going to be there to get hit, and that's going to leave a lot of question marks and some worry, I'm sure.
And then on the other hand of that coin, on the other side of that coin, you got Mario Barrios. We've seen Mario Barrios look a little more vulnerable as of late. Last fight, swollen eye, kind of a gunfight that he had, surprisingly to a lot of folks. Flat-footed at times, which is a recipe for disaster versus Pacquiao with the sudden southpaw shots that he can land. Where do you see, if you do, any chances for Pacquiao to look good against a guy like Mario Barrios?
Well, there's a reason Manny's back, right? He didn't come back when Crawford and when Spence were here, 2 years ago. He's coming back when Mario Barrios is champion, and there's a reason. There are certain characteristics in Barrios' style, and I'm not knocking Barrios at all, but he's a taller fighter. Manny actually likes fighting taller fighters. He's very good at fighting taller fighters. Margarito, myself, Oscar De La Hoya was dominant in all of those fights against taller guys. Barrios is actually even taller than I am, and Margarito actually. I think he's the tallest guy Manny's ever fought. But also he's heavy over that front foot because he's a jabber and a hooker. He wants that front hand to be loaded because he's got a very good left hook. Those kinds of guys, the heavy front foot, the taller guy, and someone who's going to engage, allows him to get hit, and we saw that in 2 fights you were talking about. Abel Ramos was the last fight to draw, where he got dropped and took a lot of damage in that fight. And even before that, Fabian Maidana landed some really good shots, damaged the eye. And I thought he looked really good in the Ugas fight because Ugas is a really difficult guy to look good against. Probably Barrios' best win in my eyes. But even that fight, he got hit with some shots at certain times. He was on the back foot. So there are things when you're watching him that you say, hey, listen, Manny's got a shot. Power's the last thing to go. And Manny's straight left hand down the middle against a guy who's heavy over that front foot and gets square at times, because Barrios does get square.
Exactly, get square.
He likes to engage.
Square.
Right. Guys like that, there's opportunities for Manny Pacquiao to take advantage. Manny of old, I think this would be somewhat of an easy fight for Pacquiao.
Wow. And with so many contrasts and so many things going on, you look at the fight just below it. You got Fondora and Tim Tszyu coming back again. Tim Tszyu looking at revenge. What was probably one of the bloodiest fights of the year, maybe in the last 5 years that we've seen at that level of high competition with him and Sebastian Fondora too. The Towering Inferno has gone on to look impressive in his last victory. But what do you think has to happen with Sebastian Fondora and Tim Tszyu to kind of get the same type of mix? Or do you think that these guys just have that, the styles are compelling enough to make great fights?
I think we got another great fight in our hands. Even before the cut in the first fight, they didn't have trouble finding each other. Tim got right to him. I mean, he was landing beautiful right hands. Listen, part of the blood from that fight was not just the cut, was the nose. And that was caused by a legal punch from Tim Tszyu because he landed a beautiful right hand. Absolutely. He was jabbing well with the taller man. He landed the right hand he couldn't miss. He found it right away. So right away, you saw the engagement. You saw it was going to be a high contact fight between these two. And listen, for Fondora, he's always in high contact fights. He likes to fight on the inside, even though he's so tall and long. He's got good power. He believes in it. And even though he's been knocked out by Mendoza, he still likes to engage on the inside. He actually did something I'd never seen him do before in that fight, was he actually got on the outside and jabbed. Because Tszyu was out there swimming through his own blood, couldn't see much, and Fondora is popping that jab, that long 6'4" jab at him. But I think we're gonna have another classic. They're in very different phases of their careers at this point. Momentum-wise, Fondora is riding high. Tim Tszyu, man, he's kind of in the trenches. He's coming off of 2 back-to-back losses and then a quick win over Joey Spence, which I don't think did anything for anybody. But that Murtazalia fight, that's a hard beating to wipe from your fighter's psyche. When you were the guy who was the seek and destroy guy, the guy that put the pressure on, and then you get stopped in that manner, that can leave some mental scars. So it's going to depend on how much Tim Tszyu can leave that in his past.
And a bit shocking when we saw the knockout with Tim Tszyu and Murtazalia. After the fight, Tim Tszyu, when we did the scrum, he looked at us quite frankly and said, man, I don't even know what the hell happened. He was answerless. He had no answers for what happened. You talked about the lingering effect of something like that. How does a guy work around that, or is it something that has to happen through contact and through the rigors of training?
I'm going to use my own career as an example. I fought this man, Manny Pacquiao, 11 years ago, and after that fight, I was like, damn, I don't know what happened. That was not the game plan. I was not ready, for that straight left hand, the way it was so tricky, and he was hard to hit, and he hurt me, and I was hurt for most of the fight. But I saw the end. What did I do? I got right back in the saddle and fought Amir Khan. And I was a completely different me. You know, people were saying I was going to get wiped out in one round, and I wasn't ready because of the Pacquiao fight. And I put on one of the best performances of my career. I think you just got to get right back in and jump into the deep end. If you have the self-belief in yourself that, yeah, I don't know what happened that night, but listen, that wasn't me. I'm more than that. I think that self-belief goes a long way. Tim Tszyu strikes me as the kind of guy who has that.
Hey, Chris, you know, I'd be remiss, man. I mean, I know we don't have a forever and a day to interview, but realistically, yes, 11 years ago, you did share the ring with Manny Pacquiao. A much different version of Manny Pacquiao, but still the same tricks, the same thought process going into it for Manny Pacquiao. What do you think? What advice would you give Mario Barrios as a guy that's seen those shots coming down the middle? What would you tell him to do and to not feel safe doing with Pacquiao?
So I mentioned the things that Barrios does that fall into, you know, where Manny could take it. There are things that Mario does that are really going to be really effective against Pacquiao. So in the Ugas fight, he actually dropped him with a drop jab. It was a stiff, and he dropped his head offline, got his head offline from Ugas' jab, and put a hard, straight, short left hand straight down the middle and put Ugas on his butt. That's a great weapon against the southpaw. Manny, you know, is coming with that left hand, and sometimes he flies in with that thing. He gets his head offline, he dips, and he puts that jab on his chin. Manny will knock himself down. He'll dive into it or out. Also, Mario, and he did this in the Akmadov fight, he has good in and out at times. Yes, he can get flat-footed, but he does, when he gets on those toes, he can do a little push-pull. If he pulls and makes Manny reach, there's going to be opportunities for him to counter with the right hand, left hook, which he actually did really well in the Akmadov fight, especially early on. So there are things that Barrios does that can really offset a lot of the things that even Prime Manny did. Also, and I've been talking to a lot of people around here, Bob Santos being one of them, but I've also heard reports, Barrios hits hard. And I've heard he hits hard with both hands. Mm-hmm. And he's not a one-punch guy, but he scores knockdowns in almost all of his welterweight fights, besides Keith and the fight with Gervonta, but he was a bit weight drained in that one. But everybody else he puts down. You know, the guy can punch. So there's a lot of things that Barrios has in his favor.
And when we're talking about the things that Barrios has in his favor, what is, if you were to say, hey, this right here, you don't need to do at all versus Manny Pacquiao, or you could turn out badly, what would you warn him against doing?
I would be careful of when you pick to stand in front and bang. He's a Mexican warrior. He loves the fight, and he gets dragged into fights quite often. I think he needs to stay disciplined early in this fight. Manny's going to be dangerous in those first couple rounds. I think if you want to bang with him, which I'm okay with, and I'm sure he's going to want to, I would say wait for the middle rounds before he starts getting square and banging two-handed, two-fisted with Pacquiao, even an aging one.
I'll drop 2 fights down. Fierro, Pitbull 2,
Yes.
A great fight before. Pitbull edges is out before. What do you think the second fight looks like? Do you think we get another classic?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was talking about this on my podcast, Inside Boxing Live, with Dan Canobio. Prior to the first fight, I'm like, yo, this is a sneaky good fight. I knew Fierro. I'd seen him. I called fights for him before. I'm like, yo, this guy can fight. And, you know, Pitbull, he gets in the fight, sure, but he's looking a little vulnerable at times. And sure enough, we had a classic. I think that these guys could fight 100 times. They're all going to be good. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. It's a really sneaky good fight on the undercard.
We saw Pitbull in that first fight bite down. I think it might have been the 4th round. Fierro looked like he was getting ready to drop Pitbull. Mm-hmm. Pitbull stepped back and decided to come into the fire to claim it back. What's that say about a guy like him? And you look like you remember the moment yourself.
I absolutely do, because I was like, wow, Fierro's doing it. He's really doing it. And then Pitbull was like, no, bro, I'm that guy. I'm that dude. And that was good to see, because Pitbull had been looking kind of troubled the last couple fights. The fire looked like it wasn't there in some of those fights. So finding it against Fierro, I think is really important for his career moving forward.
And last but not least, ex-champion, one of the longest reigning WBC featherweight champions that there ever has been, Gary Russell Jr., back in action. Gary's back. What do you think about that? I mean, listen,
he's one of the most inactive guys, but the guy wins. He knows how to fight. That whole family, man, it's incredible when they're out there. I'm happy to see him back. It's been a while, so I'm sure he'll be fresh, but it'll be good to see an operator of his level out there on the undercard.